Very good evening to you. Our topic of discussion today is on the last concluding topic of Module 2 called Financing of Innovation. So, why finance, or why do you think finance is the key to innovation? We have to look at the broader picture because you already know innovation is the introduction of new products or services, innovation is the introduction of new business models. Innovation disrupts existing market processes. I told you there is linear or incremental innovation, and then there is radical or non-linear, which is disruptive ways of innovation. Now, innovation in itself is quite a complex phenomenon. You need different types of knowledge and skills. There are many actors, so as to say. I've already told you the academic institutions, R&D, companies, public bodies, financiers, users, all interact together in the process of innovation. So thereby, it's a process with highly uncertain outcomes. So there is a definite need to commit certain resources which reduces the level of uncertainty. Now, innovation is all about making money. R&D focuses on transforming money into knowledge. Innovation is about transforming knowledge into money. This was a statement made by Mr. Esko Eho, who is the former Prime Minister of Finland. So thereby, you see, transforming money into knowledge and vice versa. So we have something called the innovation finance cycle. Knowledge and inventions are converted into money. Money gives you the ability to do research through R&D, find out more knowledge and inventions. Innovation is the process which is behind this entire innovation finance cycle. Now, the main financial instruments behind innovations is first one, you have something called a grant or a subsidy, which could be some seed funding which is given for really innovative startups, small and medium enterprises at a very early stage. So even though there is a bit of market failure, financing is done at the very initial formative stages of these companies. Then you have something called the business angel. So these people finance at the riskier stage. They not only finance, they also provide advice and mentoring. Then later on, once it's at a growth stage, less risky, you have venture capital investors who invest money for a long time span, 10 to 12 years. They invest, they wait for their investment to mature, and then they exit. Corporate venturing. So large firms invest in innovative startups because they would ultimately either acquire this startup or have a major stake in the startup and helps them improve their competitiveness index. Then you have something called crowdfunding. So this is done via the internet. Small businesses or innovative businesses can raise capital at a very early stage. Of course, you have bank loans, but here you have to give a guarantee or collateral in exchange for the loan. Then, for startups and really innovative companies, you have these things called tax incentives, and some entrepreneurial investments are made in a lot of countries. So, just giving you a bird's eye view about the different types of financing instruments for when you look at the nature and financing of innovative enterprises, what we need to consider are the characteristics of such enterprises, what are the financing needs, and what are the financing options. So, innovative enterprises tend to be new and young. You can talk about startups, small and medium enterprises. It can grow quite substantially. It accounts for over half of all innovations and could be radical in nature. So, some opportunities in innovation can be market applications, new innovations, technological discoveries, new applications for existing technology, imitation, or also called copycat products or business practices, where you introduce them back into the local market. What are the key factors which drive innovation? Investment in education that is relevant to business. So I'm talking about investment in not just R&D, but investment in KM, knowledge management. So business investment should be a key part of the innovation process and strategy. Specific policy measures need to fall into place to create a good, conducive environment where you can commercialize innovative business opportunities. So, investment and what determines the prevalence of these investment avenues or investment in entrepreneurship and innovation is the R&D environment has got to be rock solid. You need to have the right kind of leaders and people that look at not just the risk but also the growth aspect of it. And you need to have a very favorable environment to attract early stage financing and support from external entities. So, how do these innovative enterprises actually develop? It all starts with an individual or a group and an idea. You need to look at technical feasibility, market feasibility, and economic feasibility. Develop the product, start the operations, bring it into the market, then look at organizational expansion, look at growth. So, you've got to understand innovation can be financed at any one of these 6 stages. So you understand each stage has different types of financing and funding. So look at this please. These are the different risks and roles on the journey from idea to the marketplace. One is a basic R&D, which is just proof of the principle. You are applying that R&D where you are bringing some proof of the concept, you are demonstrating the innovation, you are trying to market it and you are diffusing it across geographies. So here there is increasing risk when you move from basic R&D to diffusion. So investments are needed in order for the business to grow. You need government policies, and from basic R&D to diffusion there is decreasing support. From diffusion onwards there could be more increase in support. So you see this please. Basic research, discovery and invention. You can get grants, you can get some vouchers, you can get some tax incentives. When you apply for patents, when your R&D is in process, when you are prototyping it, you can get seed finance, loans, guarantee schemes. Once you have industrialized or made it successful, here is where private companies enter in. You have venture capitalists, then some companies go for the IPO, which is the initial public offering where you are bringing your company to a whole new level altogether. But there are some challenges of attracting this finance. One, high uncertainty. So you have to understand it's an innovation, still very young. There's no track record, very limited evidence for it being feasible, very high rates of obsolescence, information asymmetry, and entrepreneurs' knowledge is very tacit, could be limited at times. So it becomes hard to distinguish between low quality, high quality opportunities. And the value of an innovative firm is entirely based on long term growth. Thereby, we need specialized financial institutions only for early stage financing. You see this, please. These are the dynamics of financing needs. At the seed stage, before it moves to the startup stage, you have feasibility grants, founders. There's something called the 3F model. I'll come to it subsequently. Between the seed, startup, and early growth stage, you see there's one stage called the valley of death. If it doesn't move beyond seed and startup, it could mean potential death for the innovation. But if it starts to grow, you have business angels, you have venture capitalists coming. When it starts to expand, you get debt loans, bridge loans, or loans from financial institutions or NBFCs. And then it can ultimately even go to public stock markets through IPOs. So, from the seed stage, startup, early growth, and expansion, there are dynamic financing options which are available. Now, just some examples. I've taken an example of the UK market here. In the early stage, they may invest about £0 to about £500,000. They want to pursue radical innovation. They're trying to get a good proof of concept. This is an early stage fund. Then next early development can be from £500,000 to £20 million. This could be from angel investors or venture capital, where they're drawing on their expertise and trying to bring it to market. 20 million pounds to 100 million pounds. They are trying to make it really successful. So here it could be self-funding, it could be from revenue, or it could be from other sources. More than 100 million pounds. Universities, consultants, innovation-based companies, banks, financial institutions may actually provide funding. So you have to understand, grants are initial funding. Proof of concept gets you something called pre-seed funding. Then the next stage is called seed funding. So when you're starting up, you can also have venture capitalists and public funds. Ultimately, when you come to expansions, large VCs, venture capitalists. So to give you an idea, Ratan Tata, one of the largest venture capitalists, who invests in a lot of really innovative companies. Warren Buffett, you would have heard about him. So these are people who have private VC funds who invest in it. Jack Ma, of course, Masayoshi Son of SoftBank Japan. These are people who have their own private VC funds and invest in large, really innovative startups, and you can also get bank loans. So you can see most of the times the owner may fund, angels, venture capitalists may, other equity through loans perhaps or bank loans, trade credit, but the owner I think remains ultimately at the top where he tries to put in his own money. When it's small, even when it goes up to 2 years in lifespan. So again, we spoke about it, just giving you an example from the UK perspective, how it starts, and by the time it goes to the public market, what is the kind of investment you could actually be looking at. Seed funding is very uncertain, quite risky. So seed funding comes from 3F: family, friends, and fools. So it means you get money from family, try raising funds from friends. If you cannot convince, confuse, try raising money from fools also. So these funding decisions are taken based on certain criteria. Public agencies may give it, families and friends may give it. So, but it's not very safe, it is quite risky at the same time. Right? So here the investors actually have a claim on the value of the enterprise. Investors can make money, the downside they can lose money entirely also. Because of which there is something called convertible preferred stock, preference shares, debentures, which you have studied in your accountancy. These ensure that first the investors get paid, then the entrepreneurs get paid. So these are examples for seed funding. You could get it from business angels. Specific seed funds itself are available. Incubators are there. Venture capital funds are there. So capital is raised by specialized intermediaries, as we have spoken in the last couple of slides. Then it ultimately reaches the hands of entrepreneurs. So when you look at early stage financing, I told you there is something called business angel financing. So what is a business angel? What is their role? How do they operate? It's simple. A business angel is one that provides your initial capital to help you at least break even. Because only if you break even can you move to the first stage, second stage, third stage, larger stage, moving on to the public market. Without the initial seed capital, nothing is possible. So this is what I was telling you, family, friends and fools model. Close family members up to 43.7% they may fund your venture. Other relatives about 8.9%. Friends or neighbors 29.2%. Work colleagues, someone gullible but extremely wealthy who you could confuse or convince to invest, could be about 8.9%. So these business angels are very wealthy individuals. They can make investments starting from $25,000, $50,000 to a few $1,000,000 in really promising ventures. They give you a substantial portion of the capital. Sometimes they provide more capital. Business angels could be very active. They could be passive also. They could be novices or they could be highly experienced. One business angel that I forgot to mention is Mr. Anand Mahindra, who is the chairman of the Mahindra and Mahindra group, who is a very active, highly experienced business angel. Business angels don't just give you money, they have a lot of business and entrepreneurial experience. They provide strategic, operational, and market advice, offer insights on any industry. They introduce the entrepreneur to many major stakeholders, offer a lot of moral support, and their reputation helps the entrepreneur attract very high quality and high voltage deals. So, business angel investment works on the basis of trust. You need to have a credible business plan. You need to have a good team to support you. Fiscal incentives need to be there, provided by the government or by maybe say family, friends, fools, as I told you. The entrepreneur needs to have good market knowledge. The angel investor needs to be able to exit with his money. You need to demonstrate good return on investment. So, business angels in the early stage are so crucial because they can take you from zero all the way up till 20. Meaning, this is just an example amount invested in USD $1 billion. You can see that. And up to 60,000 enterprises are actually financed by business angels, not just by venture capitalists. So BAs, business angels, need to look at the proposal. They need to study the business, market impact, competitive advantage. They need to look at the qualification of the person who's running that business. Does it operate in the right industry? Is the business close enough for proper face to face interaction? Are the criterion on which BAs decide about the investment? Then you have something called BAN, Business Angel Networks, where you have a group of people, group of angel investors who pool financial knowledge, market knowledge, their information, and they channel this money knowledge between other angel investors, other entrepreneurs. They get bigger deals. They diversify their portfolios. They participate in more deals. So, one good example of a business angel network and a combination of VCs is this show called the Shark Tank. If you've seen it, I'll ensure that when we meet on the coming Tuesday, we will have a case study on Shark Tank and sources of financing for innovation. So, these business angel networks could be local, regional, national, international. They work in some particular sectors. They help you in matchmaking, right business, right sector. They help you develop business plan. They train investors and entrepreneurs. They help you get investment funds and opportunities. So the business angels also would need to study economic conditions, tax conditions. They need to look at how much their capital will grow, how quickly they can exit, stock market conditions as well. So when you look at business angels versus later stage investors, business angels have major source of funds, leverage effect. They try bringing in other investors as well. They give small amounts of funding. Their investment is not very restricted. They are highly opportunistic, driven by formal analysis and detailed market scenarios. Expectation of ROI is relatively low. They don't charge too much fees to obtain finance. They have know-how, advice, and good contacts. Their money is patient. They don't have much pressure to exit, and they invest in their own locality. Sometimes, the later stage investors are not very visible. They have expectations of getting more ownership in the business, not much professional experience. They have hidden motives and they may become business devils. Then you have venture capital financing. So you'll have to bear with me. This module is slightly longer because it talks about the financial elements of innovation. So here we talk about venture capital, how it works, and the investment cycle. So venture capital gets money from investors and provides it to high potential companies. They identify investments, they provide finance in stages, they add their own value. Venture capitalists give a smooth flow of funds and they expect good returns. So, venture capitalists are professionally managed. They try to exit within 5 to 7 years. Patient capital, however, they will liquidate it before they exit. Then 70 to 80% of venture capital fund goes to early growth or expansion stage companies. Mind you, look at business angels. They provide it to seed growth, whereas VCs will only give it to early growth or companies which are in expansion stage. So you can see early stage, later stage, stage 1, 2, 3. All these are financed by venture capital funds. So VC firms will raise funds from other institutional investors. VC firms will invest in entrepreneurial firms. VC firms will get returns not only from the entrepreneurial firms but also from the institutional investors. And VC firms after 5 to 7 years will exit from entrepreneurial firms. So in venture capital you have something called private equity, meaning this is owned by the venture capitalists. It's not quoted on stock market. But venture capital, sometimes this is money or capital which is given during the early development or expansion of the business. Venture capital could be listed on stock markets. Private equity belongs to the venture capitalist. So difference between angels and VCs: angel investors are entrepreneurs, venture capitalists are from some industry. Angel investors invest their own money, venture capitalists invest other people's money. Angel investors seed and early stage, VCs more early stage and growth stage. Angel investors get some common shares, venture capitalists get preference shares. Angel investors structure the deal through social networks, angel groups. Venture capitalists not only use social networks but have their own proactive outreach. Due diligence is conducted by angel investors themselves. VCs take the assistance of law firms. Angel investors are very local. VCs may be national and international also. Angel investors are active, they work with the company. VCs will command for a seat on the board of the company, they are very strategic. ROI is important but not the main reason for angel investing. ROI for VC is highly critical. Decent returns must be there because they need to earn money, they need to pay back their investors. So the VC process, first they will provide some incentives. Capital is tied to achievement of milestones. Entrepreneurs are vested with the residual value of the firm. VCs will provide expertise. They will look at opportunities and threats. They'll give strategic guidance. The management is highly professional. They have not a very large network of relationships but highly structured. So this eases the concerns of customers or suppliers of that firm. How VC firms add value? They do something called pre-investment, where screening of the firm is done, due diligence is done, deals are structured. Post investment, they will monitor companies and markets. They will try and add value and then they will exit. So when VC firms are trying to invest, they will do detailed evaluation, they will screen, they will do due diligence. When VCs are investing, business plan has got to be very credible. They look at track record. They want fast growth and quick ROI. The management team must be the best. So what VCs do? They generate the deal. It can go from 2 weeks to 1 month. They do non-due diligence process. They have something called NDA. Your deal that the VC is structuring with you cannot be shared with anybody. Non-disclosure agreement. They do their own due diligence. They'll give you a non-binding offer. I will pay you this much if what you're saying is true. Then they will do a due diligence process which goes on for about 3 months. Then the final process is they'll have the due diligence document, legal contracts, and they will sign that with the company. So some issues here can be the VCs sometimes are hesitant about new funds, new companies. They are not comfortable raising funds across different geographies. They are worried about taxation. So these could be some issues in fundraising. Some other issues in investment is the R&D environment. There's not enough seed capital. The risk return is not well balanced. They don't have the right skills and the right connections. Tax laws are not feasible. But what VCs try to do is they will try to get lower cost funds from the public. They will get the right skilled people. They will get high technology innovators. They get managers from different firms and different countries and try and add value. If they are exiting, they want returns which are 1 to 2 times their investment, or sometimes even 4 to 5 times. Successful IPOs are very important. They look at economic conditions as well. So these are good ways for the firm to exit. So VC investments could be through IPO, could be some VC investments are out of business. Some are still private and they've not been able to take it out. It's called the living dead. An interesting new way of investment for innovative companies is called crowdfunding. So I'll just give you an idea. One of the clients I was working with, he was a innovator that was developing projects for the Eurorail, which is the largest train network in Europe, where he was developing seats for them. So this guy had a company called Meshined, Meshined, where he was also developing smart footwear for disabled people. He wanted to raise money but didn't really get access to the right kind of venture capitalists. There is one of the largest global crowdfunding platforms called Kickstarter. So he put up his project and all of his business plans on Kickstarter. So money here is raised by a large number of people who are interested in the concept, right? So crowdfunding is a good concept to fund really innovative entrepreneurial projects. So there's another new crowdfunding platform which is also called Republic, but you can definitely check out Kickstarter. So in crowdfunding, you have someone that proposes the idea, then you have a crowd or a community who support the idea with money, and you have an online platform which brings the innovator and the crowd together. So you see, traditional funding can come from only one or few sources. Crowdfunding, small sums of money from large group of individuals, make it very worthwhile. So crowdfunding can be through something called P2P lending, peer to peer, person to person. Crowdfunding, you're selling your small stake, percentage or ownership in business to a number of investors. Sometimes reward based crowdfunding is there. You invest X amount of money, you can get a non financial reward, maybe a coupon or a discount voucher of some kind. Donation, where you're crowdfunding without any material or financial return. Then there is revenue sharing based crowdfunding, debt securities based crowdfunding, and hybrid models which look at multiple avenues. So you can see magnitude of crowdfunding has been huge in this.